Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos, doggone it. My name is John Fahey. Joining me as ever, the pinnacle of perversion, consummate pretty boy, a man I will love till the day I die, Mr. Aaron Joseph Peter. How are you, Aaron?
I just got my Ph.D.
Yes. And now what was that in?
P.
Very good.
In
Very
high
good.
definition.
Wow.
Very good.
Ph.D.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And it's PH to perfection, I believe.
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
it's a pH perfect.
Yeah.
It's right down the middle.
It's PH. It's not a
Yes.
PhD. It's just PH to piss. And joining us to your right, my left, a gorgeous young man.
Oh, hi.
What's his name? Mr. Matt Brousseau.
Hi. Thanks.
Matt.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
If you're here, who's running heaven?
No.
Bob Ross.
Yeah. Bob Ross. Yeah. He alternates with the other guy.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. Rogers Ross tag team.
R&R.
I want to send a special shout out to Patreon subscriber Kaylin Considine, brand new $5 a month subscriber
Hell
to
yes.
the Profiles in Eccentricity Patreon. Guys, there's a whole extra show on there. Please, get involved. It's
It's another dimension of profiles.
it is.
You
It's
get
a
an
whole.
extra D.
You do. You do. You get. There's a whole. It's the fourth D.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and we want you to be a part of it. There's a continuing conversation on there, as well as in the Instagram. If you're not following Profiles
Yes.
Instagram,
Yes.
please, Profiles in Eccentricity on the Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
We love to hear from you guys on there, and send us messages. You know, we
you
love
want.
hearing from everybody and talking to everybody.
Yeah, we do our best to conversate.
Yeah, we do conversate. It's
You
very
know,
good. Yeah.
Love to conversate.
Oh, I love to conversate, bro. Oh,
It's
so
one of my
sick.
favorite things to do.
Oh my god.
So, hit us up.
Yeah.
DM, slide into our DM.
Now, Aaron, first media episode on the Starburns Network. Isn't that very
Oh,
exciting?
wow.
It is our
Wow,
first
great.
media episode on the Starburns Network. So we better we got to lawyer up. If
yeah.
we haven't cleared these media items, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's usually a lot of the media that we have, nobody would want to lay claim to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
but
Truly eccentric.
it is. We love doing these media episodes. Why?
Well, because we get to let everybody into our dumb
Our-
little inside jokes, and now
Mhm.
you're all a part
Mhm.
of it, and so when it's a shorthand, it's a love language, right?
Yeah.
So we get to just kind of throw these little one-liners out, and it has so much more behind it.
Right.
It's a shorthand for just fun
Fun
Fun.
and love.
and
Fun
love.
and love.
Fun
Fun
and love.
and love.
Because it's fun to love.
It's so fun
And
to
I
love.
love fun. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm very.
Don't apologize, don't apologize,
I'm
but-
very remorseful.
Don't apologize. It's a sign of weakness.
We have our friend Joe Latcha working on piss shirts for us.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So
The first
Beautiful.
explicitly piss themed Profiles in Eccentricity shirts.
Yes. First piss-themed profiles paraphernalia.
Yes.
That has been officially sanctioned
Yeah.
by us.
And it is I mean,
Great.
once these are in production and for sale on the free market, it'll be the first pro piss shirt I've ever heard of. I've never seen a pro pee shirt.
No.
But you know, you guys are sitting on a gold mine. You know what I mean? It's
We're really tapping into a.
yeah.
Tap it in, tap it out.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to share something that Joe, I had him dig out for me from years ago. This thing that came out in a thrift store that his beautiful wife Jessie uncovered and brought home. And I don't know if I've told either of you about it before, but this is the form of media I'm going to start with, which is a little bit different and weird, is a board game. Board game called Public Assistance.
Yes.
And it is like a
opposite of Monopoly?
life or a Monopoly style board game where there is 2 tracks around the board, and you get money, right, or lose money going around it, and say you go around 12 times, and whoever has the most money wins. But the game is a little bit rigged because there's 2 tracks, and one is the working man's, and one is the welfare queen's.
Of course.
Oh wow, yeah, no issues with this game.
Yeah,
No, it's not problematic.
Fantastic.
But it's so fascinating as just a piece of American, like somebody going to make this, and this is 1980.
Jim, what are you working on in the garage?
I got this board game where I talk about the fucking motherfuckers skimming off all us working slobs, you know.
So I'm taking a cue out of Steve Jobs' book and starting a business out of my garage, but instead of advancing the state of technology, I'm actually mooching off a pre-existing product.
Yeah, it's
So it's a game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a winnable, playable board game.
So it's more than Monopoly.
It's really fascinating. There is the 2 tracks. You can switch between them at certain points where you have a choice, which is get a job or go on welfare. All throughout.
Oh, a nice binary choice.
Very nice binary choice. So as you go around, there's like the version of community chess cards, and you land on one, working man's burden, if you're on the outside track. If you're on the inside track,
I like how welfare's the inside track.
Welfare. Oh no. They are calling it the working man's rut is the outside track. The name of the inside track is the able-bodied welfare recipients promenade.
Able-bodied
welfare recipients promenade. Okay.
Does it come with a dog whistle, or is this the whole thing?
So you land on.
Is it lit by gas?
So the whole outside track is there's 4 spaces that are car payment due, pay dice times 10.
Oh wow.
Inside track, able-bodied welfare recipients promenade. 1 square will be read girly magazines all day. The next one will be emergency food stamps, collect $100. Have illegitimate child in all caps.
Wow, you can't even have a legitimate child?
Cheat. Move to any block on welfare on your next turn. Okay?
Cheat.
So they have these cards that are, when you land on benefit, you take a benefit card if you're on the inside track. If you're on the outside track, you take the burden card, the working man's burden card. And as you go around, you can go on a jail jaunt. A jail jaunt. You can go on a government cakewalk. You can go into the prostitution subsection.
Ooh.
You can go into the drug subsection. And the whole thing is, if you're on the welfare track, you make all the money. The whole point of the game is to show you that the only way to win the game is to go on the welfare track.
Right.
It's the most politically biased board game in the history of time, and it is on the dawn of the Reagan election, of course.
I think everybody says, who are the happiest people I know? People on welfare.
Oh, yeah.
They're faring well.
They're always doing great.
But the things they say in this are so fucking funny. Like, one of the inside track able-bodied welfare recipients promenade blocks that you can land on is spend leisurely afternoon loitering in gay bar.
That sounds like a great time. And a job at the same time.
And whereas in the working man's burden track, it's church raffle, lose $10. Like even when you're doing things you like on the working man's burden, you lose money. It's like
is there anything about it that makes it seem like it is just lampooning both sides?
No, it's 100% loaded dice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 100%. If you have a government job, even if you're a working man with a government job, you're still a fucking welfare recipient.
Right.
Even if you're somebody with a union job, it's like the squares will be like, take 6 hours to do a 3-hour job. It's so fucked up, but so funny.
Yeah.
If it weren't so dangerous, right?
Welfare track, get AIDS, have a movie made about you.
Yeah, like there's a
cash in.
There's a subsection that's union job, right? And now they got to know how to cage this, right? Because they're like, all right, we don't want to alien in, whatever. So one of the squares you land on in union job is you show too much initiative, advance to nearest burden. Like you lose your union job by being a good worker, is what they're saying. You get kicked out.
Bad.
Yeah, you get kicked out of the union. and then the cards, the benefit cards or the burden cards. The benefit cards are just like you pick one up and it's like illegitimate child determined to have learning disability, receive immediate $200.
Oh my God!
Devastating.
It pays to have a
Yeah.
disabled kid.
Welfare benefit card. You land on another benefit card on the able-bodied welfare recipients promenade.
Mm-hmm.
National Endowment for the Arts accepts your proposal for experimental filmmaking. Your theme: the limits of pornography.
Let's push it.
Now I'm in.
My theme
Your
is
theme.
the limits. The limits.
Do you have any idea who was the genius behind this?
No. I mean, it was probably fucking like, some hedge fund
Yeah.
or something, like this was the height of, divide and conquer the American workforce.
Yeah. Other than now.
Post Carter, everybody's getting a better deal than you, fucking hate your neighbor, all that type of shit. But they're so funny. Like, set up fake robbery and report welfare check and food stamps stolen. Collect $500 emergency grant. Now the burden cards that you get to is
I mean, they wanted to call it white man's burden, right?
Right.
oh yeah,
right.
they use the word ethnic a lot.
Ethnic.
Ethnic comes up quite a bit.
Be ethnic. Collect $500.
Working person's burden is fix leaking roof, pay $100. Your son needs braces, pay dentist $800. Your neighborhood has become target for blockbusting, lose $1,000. Your sister is raped by a paroled rapist, lose one turn.
Lose a turn.
Well, you can't
Yeah.
even go to work anymore.
Yeah.
Spouse needs downers to calm nerves, pay pharmacist $20.
Spouse needs downers to come.
I mean, it is shitting on everything, but
Yeah.
it is definitely heavy.
Oh no, you just pay.
Yeah.
There's like the odd payout card in
Migrant takes job.
yeah, it's Ethnic Carnival comes to town. You lose $200 on Wheel of Fortune.
Ethnic
What?
Yeah.
carnival.
Ethnic carnival?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck does that mean?
Is that in New Orleans? Is it just like Day of the Dead, or what is it? Who does that?
Carnival.
Ethnic politicians hires you under the table to get out the welfare vote. Collect $200. You know how easy it is to get out the welfare vote,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Ethnic politician.
Ethnic politician.
Since your welfare money is not counted as income, receive $500 tax rebate for poor families. It's
Yeah. Why would you? But why would it be?
it's so fucking insane.
It's just. There's so many good ones. I mean, today it would be. I don't know. What would?
Well, I mean, being on the dole, whatever you want to call it, being on welfare, being on it, it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
Well, because there's that. You reach a point where I can get a job,
And
but
then-
I don't get paid enough, as much as I barely can make enough off welfare.
Right.
But if I take a job, I lose the welfare, but then I'm not making as much.
Right, nobody's going from welfare and food stamps and Medicaid to a six-figure job.
Right.
They're going into a minimum wage job that's probably based off of tips.
Yeah.
Or just barely minimum wage. And
Or
then,
McDonald's or something.
Right, and then there's this, Venn diagram crossover area where it's like, oh, well, that's not even worth it for me now.
If only I knew an ethnic politician.
If only.
Well, this is something you guys can do if you ever run into trouble if you're on welfare. Is your great aunt Sophie dies, you don't report her death and bury her in the basement and collect her $500 welfare check each time you reach the first of the month. It's so fucking racist and fucked up.
Is there one where it's like, group together with rich people to get rid of estate tax,
Yeah.
hand down millions of dollars to your kids?
Form corporate conglomerate and buy every media brand and influence public elections.
So even in the instructions and stuff like that, they just throw out some stuff with like, actually, there's no limit to kids you can have in the game because this one person on welfare in Baltimore, they had this many children, and some of their illegitimate children that they claimed they had children, and it's just like, so like there's like slipping in propaganda into every single nook and cranny of this game, and it's like.
Meanwhile, they probably did so many fucking tax loopholes on like classifying the game as a piece of art.
Well,
or whatever.
I mean, the thing is, like, this could be made by just a totally fucking misled middle class person
Yes.
that believes the hype.
Or Chris Burden.
But it is like
Working man's burden.
well,
Hello.
Wasn't the original idea to show how bad monopolies were?
Yes.
And then everybody who plays it just becomes the monster.
Yes. The point of Monopoly was to show how wealth pools.
Yeah.
And it becomes not fair or fun to play the game.
This is my favorite one in the entire game. This is a working person's burden card that you can draw, which is, you are up for a high-paying promotion, but government quote-unquote affirmative action rules require that a disadvantaged minority homosexual Buddhist female be promoted over you.
So funny.
They bring in Buddhism.
Yeah.
Like, I like, it's just like, it's so fucked up and racist, but like,
It is funny.
it's an artifact of just insanity.
Yeah.
Somebody writing in all these tiny squares all of this fucking like hateful jargon.
They must have been so angry when they were writing it.
You know, like, I mean, I'm never like,
Either a team of comedians or one pissed off blue collar creative madman made that.
Homosexual Buddhist, though.
Female.
homosexual
female-
and disadvantaged.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well,
In quotes.
It's one of my brothers. He had after Obama was elected, he made a bumper sticker that said, "I wish I could vote for Kenyan socialist Muslim."
Right.
Wow.
And he was in San Diego, of all places, California, right? Liberal. And he's at a stoplight, and this woman pulls up, and her daughter is sitting in the passenger seat, and she puts the window down and yells through her daughter. She goes, "Yeah, is that what you want? Well, you got it now."
Speaking of blowing down a window.
Did she show the Mentos?
Look it in the kid's eye.
You got it now. Oh God. So yeah, that was. I mean, thank you, Joe.
Joe.
Holding on to the game, sent me all digital pictures
Fantastic.
of all the cards, everything. It was
He
really.
bought the
Thank you,
game.
Joe.
Did he have to pay money, or did he use his welfare
It was
check?
actually, and now this will really speak to the working man's burden. It was fetched out of the dumpster.
Fine game in dumpster.
Yeah. Well, you know how we're takers. You know,
They were going to turn that game into fuel.
it was a thrift store dumpster, and like
Thrift store dumpster.
yeah, it was just like
Nice.
it would always have like, because then like they throw out the funniest shit they can't put in the thrift store.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it would always get a look at the end of the workday.
Right.
And a lot of times, there's a lot of dildos, and people donate so many dildos to Goodwill.
Throw your dildos
you,
away.
You don't want to throw them away.
No, you want.
You want to give him,
Somebody
so
could use
someone
it.
could buy it cheap.
Yeah, at a bargain. It's Goodwill, right? Tax write-off too.
Yeah.
Mm,
That
oh,
was
yeah.
a $500 dildo.
That was my great aunt's dildo.
Priceless.
She's in the backyard.
A fucking rhino horn. But
We're gonna have to look into who made that.
public
That's
assistance.
great.
Yeah. It has a Wikipedia page and stuff.
Oh, nice.
It's on like a list of 6 of the most famously racist board games. I didn't even look into the other 5.
That sounds like a fun list.
Yeah.
Shoots and ladders. Don't even get me started.
Oh, yikes.
Candyland.
Aaron, you can't say shoots anymore. Who's got something for me?
All right, where's that cord? Give me
For
that cord.
John Boy.
Give me that cord. It's on the ground there.
Oh, it's John Boy time.
John Boy time. It's gotta be fucking John Boy time.
Is this working? Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Where do you plug
boy. On your right.
Is it always on the right?
Well,
Talk it on the right, mate.
we both got MacBook Pros, bruv.
All right, here's one I think you guys can relate. This is B. Arthur. She's speaking out against Premarin.
Against
What?
Hi, I'm B. Arthur with a message for women who take Premarin. Don't. It's made of horse urine. I'm not kidding. Please call Peter for free information on effective animal-friendly brands. It's made of horse urine. I'm not kidding. Please call Peter for free information on effective animal-friendly brands.
What's wrong with
Because
horse urine?
She's a nice postmenopausal woman, and she's doing an ad for PETA.
For Premarin.
Premarin.
Don't.
It's the equine piss.
It's piss.
How is that bad for the horses?
And
What
we
is
can
wrong
get
with
it
this?
ethically somewhere else.
They're farming horses exclusively for their piss.
They're squeezing the piss out of the horse's balls.
Even though they're pregnant. And no, I'm not a horse. I'm B. Arthur.
B. Arthur.
That is wild.
I'm not just gonna suck and tickle. I have here.
What's wrong with the horse piss? Did they shut down Premarin? Premarin?
This is I'm a human horse lady with a message for human women. They're taking Premarin. Don't.
If you're a horse and have a dick, don't want your piss stolen.
Are you a horse? Or
Do you have a
are you a
dick?
woman who's taking Premarin?
Are you a
No.
male horse with stolen urine?
Do you want your urine?
You can recover every drop.
So what do I have here? I've got.
Those poor horses, they're milking the urine out of them.
Are you an equine animal that doesn't understand the value of your own urine excrement? Piss is number one. Here's the deal, man.
You're due for a payout.
You're due for a payout. You're sitting on a gold mine.
Are you throwing away up to 24 liters of pure gold every day?
Do you know that your urine can be made into chemical weapons to attack our adversaries overseas that threaten our way of life every day?
Be a patriot. Donate your urine. So I've got
Piss on 'em.
So keep watching Jeopardy 24 hours a day and call this number. You dumb son of a bitch. You don't watch it 24 hours a day. Hi, I'm Alex Trebek, and son of a bitch. Huh? Wait a minute. Run that by me again. I don't understand that. I didn't pause. All right, let's start cutting. There's a daily cash prize of $1,000 and fuck. Dollars, 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 and dollars. Ah, fuck. Oh, son of a bitch. Somebody gonna tell me why? Here's a little hint. Pick up, take one.
$25,000.
It's all on the same tape. How are they gonna lose it? $25,000, $50,000, $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, dollars. Well, I'm not quite ready, so I'm gonna do it now. Dollars. It's for you. No shit. Call now and play phone Jeopardy. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. And them too. Keep watching Jeopardy 24 hours a day and call this number. Yeah, dumb son of a bitch.
So this is a little compilation of Alex Trebek being a little shit, doing some reads,
Yeah.
and this is kind of in recognition of his stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosis.
Right.
Yes.
Human legend, Alex Trebek. We're gonna
Yeah.
miss you one day, but not right now.
Not yet?
We're
No,
gonna
no, no.
appreciate you while you're still around.
Do you think there's actually a celebrity that all of us would agree is like
Beloved.
yeah, just more irreplaceably like we've been talking about it a lot on the show.
Why couldn't it be Pat Sajak?
It's
Like,
just
God, oh God, please take Pat Sajak.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. Man, fucking, he just
let's-
spins the wheel.
Yeah,
It's
fuck
nothing.
Dick-
He doesn't even spin the wheel.
Take Vanna.
we don't need to throw anybody else under the treads of the tank, but I mean,
Fuck him.
fuck,
Piss on him.
forget it, piss on him.
Piss on him.
But yeah, Alex Trebek. I don't know if there's somebody else I would miss more as a public figure for some reason.
Right. Well, like Mr. Rogers is similar to, like, no one.
Who's left?
Yeah.
Who's left that is so you don't even understand how beloved because they're
Yeah.
just like a force of nature.
Yeah, Carson's dead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rickles for us
Rickles
was
is dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nobody really cares about Leno. There isn't no other like person right now. I mean, when they die, we'll know.
Yeah,
that's
no,
what-
yeah, you
all
always-
right,
you always
someone
know.
die. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Here's more.
4 hours a day. Hi, I'm Alex Trebek, and son of a bitch. Huh? Wait a minute.
He's Got the mustache.
Run that by me again. I don't understand that. I didn't pause.
Drinking a beer or a glass of wine?
All right, let's start cutting. There's a daily cash prize of $1,000 and fuck. dollars and dollars. Ah, fuck.
Drinking beer.
Is that Miller Lite?
Straight up can of beer.
Son of a bitch. Somebody gonna tell me why? Here's a little hint.
More piss.
Pick up. Take one.
$25,000.
It's all on the same tape. How are they gonna lose it? $25,000, $50,000.
I like it was
$25,000,
the professional voice.
$50,000, $100,000, dollars. Oh, I'm not quite ready, so I'm gonna do it now. Dollars. It's for you.
Slightly higher pitch.
Oh shit. Call now and play phone jeopardy. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Well, I was gonna do a little Trebek one
and
too,
them too.
if I may. Oh, you got another one.
No, that's it.
Very, very nice. We're double Trebekian? I love
Yeah,
that.
well, you know, it's
Double
the same
Jeopardy.
type of-
Don't mind if I do.
This one's been making some rounds, but I think it's quite fun.
I think it's very fun. It's called Nerdcore Hip Hop. It's
Nerdcore
hip hop. Yes. It's people who identify as nerdy rapping about the things they love: video games, science fiction, having a hard time meeting romantic partners. You know, it's really catchy and fun.
Losers, in other words.
He's such a shit.
He is. Yeah, losers. Anyway, what's your name? Adrian?
Moving on.
We just have to spend all day with these people. Like,
Yeah.
they're probably a lot of them are pretty fucking insufferable. I
Oh,
imagine.
yeah, they're probably super extra when they meet him, too.
I do have. I've got. You know, speaking of kind of lovable figures, beloved figures, institutions.
The Cato Institute.
Yes, the Cato
Yeah.
Institute. This was something I went on a bit of a Vincent Price kick recently.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And he is first of all, you never know. He was born in Missouri. He was born in St. Louis. But then he went to Yale, and he was a scholar, a learned man. He's part of the upper class, you know, the kind of that.
Yes.
Yeah, this whole Yale thing. Kind of the Gore Vidal class of the professional scholar. He was a gourmand and a gourmet cook.
Oh, okay.
And he put out
Oh, shit, I'm sorry.
albums. Thanks, John.
I'm sorry. That was
Wow.
That's all right.
Thank you. He put out albums.
He put out albums of like cooking lessons and cooking. Like people would buy the 12-inch, 33 RPM vinyls, and it would be Vincent Price telling you about Spanish tapas.
Can you fucking imagine? You
I'm
come
Vincent-
out of the record store. What'd you get? Oh, it's fucking
Spanish Cuisine by Vincent Price.
Yeah, it's fun. Oh, I got the Elvira grilled cheese album.
So this is Vincent Price on Johnny Carson, part of a larger 20-minute segment, but this is just the kind of like the reveal of the food that
The Spanish cooking.
No, this is not Spanish cooking.
Okay.
This is I can play the Spanish cuisine clip. There's Mediterranean cuisine. People have uploaded the full albums to YouTube.
Yeah,
But this is
the
just
whole
him-
discography.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, Vincent Price cooks the globe.
I love audio cooking.
Who would have thought? I'll play a clip of that later, but
And you know what I do then is I put in some saffron.
do you know what saffron is? It's the stamens of a small, beautiful flower from the Mediterranean region of Spain. Here's Vincent Price on Johnny Carson.
Now, you put this in the oven? You don't put it in the oven.
No, you don't.
Now,
And
let's-
I'll tell you what you do put it in. Here it is. The dishwasher.
Actually?
Truly, absolutely true. Now, I give you my word that an hour before the show started...
It's true.
We cooked exactly that meal in this dishwasher on the full cycle, mind you. Now, on the full cycle.
The water and,
Everything. Yeah, no rinse.
no rinse.
No, and no soap.
But the drying and
But
all of the things.
everything, the whole bit. Now, here it all is. There are our dishes.
And they're hot.
Now, they're hot, and we hope they're done. And I'm sure they are done because we've tried it, and it was successful. And we'll take a look first at the
Why do
fish.
you use a dishwasher? Just to,
Because it steams and it heats, and fish is one of the few things you couldn't do, you know, meat or anything like that in it.
So
But fish cooks in only a very short time, and it really is kind of beautiful. Look at how beautiful that is.
Now, look at that.
Huh?
That has been done.
Yes.
It's all hot.
Is it?
How now? Yeah, now you leave that in the
Yes,
whole
you leave
cycle.
that. Now, if you go over there, I'm going to bring you a little sample.
All right.
Want to take the wine with you, Johnny?
No, I think I've had enough.
Why don't you drink it here?
Getting
Huh? Now, let's see. First, we'll bone a little. Oh, look, isn't that beautiful? Look at that.
Oh.
Look at that flesh come on.
Do you bone that well? That's the thing that I don't know how to
Well,
do.
that's just something you have to learn how to do. I've been married so many times, I've learned how to bone anything.
I should be good at this then also.
I was thinking you should be just
Now
about the
that's-
same amount of good at it as I am. Now, you put that aioli sauce on
Yes,
there.
yes.
Now take that over, and I'll bring over. Let them try. Huh?
All righty.
And I'll bring over something in a minute.
You want a little fork here? This is trout. Has lemon in it, dill.
I'll tell you what you do put it in. Here it is.
Don't put it in the oven.
No, you don't. And I'll tell you what you do put it in. Here it is. The dishwasher.
Actually?
Truly, absolutely true. Now, I give you my word that an hour before the show started,
true.
we cooked exactly that meal in this dishwasher on the full cycle, mind you. Now, on the full cycle.
The water and,
Everything. Yeah, no rinse.
no rinse.
No, and no soap.
But the drying and
But
all of it.
everything, the whole bit. Now, here it all is. There are our dishes.
They're hot.
Now, they're hot, and we hope they're done. And I'm sure they are done because we've tried it, and it was successful. And we'll take a look first at the
Why do
fish.
you use a dishwasher? Just to,
Because it steams and it heats, and fish is one of the few things you couldn't do, you know, meat or anything like that in it. But fish cooks in only a very short time, and it really is kind of beautiful.
And you hear a little bit of that Missouri accent there, right?
Yeah.
In a short amount of time.
Yeah.
You also like hear just like how superior Johnny Carson was as a host compared to everyone else. Just his voice and his adaptation, just way better than anybody.
Yeah, the dishwasher.
Look at how beautiful that is.
now look at that.
Huh?
That has been done.
Yes.
It's all hot.
Is it?
How now? Yeah, now you leave that in the
Yes,
whole
you leave
cycle.
that. Now, if you go over there, I'm going to bring you a little sample.
All right.
All right.
Want to take the wine with you, Johnny?
No, I think I've had enough.
During the prep segment, they're like just pouring down white wine.
Throwing it down.
Huh? Now, let's see. First, we'll bone a little. Oh, look, isn't that beautiful? Look at that.
Oh.
Look at that flesh come on.
He's legitimately cooking fish in the dishwasher.
He just
Seriously.
he just
Well, this is a thing
tinfoil.
that
In
just
tinfoil.
recently came back on the internet of
Yeah.
like, oh, you have perfect fish you can cook in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Huh.
But
I
apparently,
actually think comedian Kevin Lee used to have a bit about it.
Really?
About cooking. It was like a running bit, and you can ask him. It was like hey, here's a quick tip about cooking. Throw your fish in the dishwasher, and then it'll come out X, Y, and Z good. And then he's like, he comes back later in his set, and he's like, can't get that nasty fish smell out of the dishwasher. Try it. Like,
That's
ask him
good.
about it. Yeah. So there's more to this.
Own that well. That's the thing.
There's he's now talking about look how well the flesh is coming off the fish here.
Want to take the wine with you, Johnny?
No, I think I've had enough.
Why don't you drink it here? Huh? Now, let's see. First, we'll bone
Huh?
a little. Oh, look, isn't that beautiful? Look at that.
Oh.
Look at that flesh come on.
Do you bone that well? That's the thing that I don't know how to
Well,
do.
that's just something you have to learn how to do. I've been married so many times, I've learned how to bone anything.
I should be good at this then also.
You're just about the same amount of good at it as I am. Now, you put that aioli sauce on.
Aioli.
And I'll bring over. Let them try. Huh?
Alrighty.
And I'll bring over something in a minute.
Just giving it to the band?
The other guests.
Did he trip and fall?
Almost.
You want a little fork here? This is trout. Has lemon in it, dill.
That's so weird.
Then there's like the whole segment. He's sitting at the couch and just like kind of flirting in his weird way with the guest, and just they really took their time more on.
Oh yeah,
Because they could.
Old TV.
Yeah,
Oh, when
and,
there
like,
was 2 channels.
Yeah, and like there's like 8 guests down the couch
Yeah.
on those old episodes, you know, and then there's Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
It's a really funny episode.
Now, Aaron, you have a dish here that you just brought out of the dishwasher.
I got I
I
think I told you about this thing before. I heard the TED Talk on NPR they were talking about, and I was just like, it was a good TED Talk, but like I couldn't help but like make fun of it in my head years ago when I first heard it, because it's an Irish guy from Long Island. Like his name's like Matthew Riley, and he's like a first responder, and he's talking about, he's like, when I used to show up at first responder scenes, people, he's like, I would some of them would be like mortally wounded, and they would ask me if they were gonna die, and it's like this whole TED Talk about starting to tell people they're gonna die when it's super obvious.
Yeah.
So this guy, I don't know, I just think it's super funny. But this is the TED Talk from Matthew O'Reilly, the Am I Dying? The Honest Answer.
I've been a critical care EMT for the past 7 years in Suffolk County, New York. I've been a first responder in a number of incidents ranging from car accidents to Hurricane Sandy. If you're like most people, death might be one of your greatest fears. Some of us will see it coming. Some of us won't. There's a little-known documented medical term called impending doom. It's almost a symptom. As a medical provider, I'm trained to respond to this symptom like any other. So when a patient having a heart attack looks at me and says, "I'm going to die today," we are trained to reevaluate the patient's condition. Throughout my career, I have responded to a number of incidents where a patient had minutes left to live, and there was nothing I could do for them. With this, I was faced with a dilemma. Do I tell the dying that they are about to face death, or do I lie to them to comfort them? Early in my career, I faced this dilemma by simply lying. I was afraid. I was afraid if I told them the truth, that they would die in terror, in fear, just grasping for those last moments of life. That all changed with one incident. 5 years ago, I responded to a motorcycle accident. The rider had suffered critical injuries. As I assessed him, I realized there was nothing that could be done for him. And like so many other cases, he looked me in the eye and asked that question: am I going to die? In that moment, I decided to do something different. I decided to tell him the truth. I decided to tell him that he was going to die and that there was nothing I could do for him. His reaction shocked me to this day. He simply laid back and had a look of acceptance on his face. He was not met with that terror or fear that I thought he would be. He simply laid there, and as I looked into his eyes, I saw inner peace and acceptance. From that moment forward, I decided it was not my place to comfort the dying with my lies. Having responded to many cases since then where patients were in their last moments and there was nothing I could do for them, in almost every case, they have all had the same reaction to the truth of inner peace and acceptance. In fact, there are 3 patterns I have observed in all these cases. The first pattern always kind of shocked me. Regardless of religious belief or cultural background, there's a need for forgiveness. Whether they call it sin or they simply say they have a regret, their guilt is universal. I had once cared for an elderly gentleman who was having a massive heart attack. As I prepared myself and my equipment for his imminent cardiac arrest, I began to tell the patient of his intimate demise. He already knew by my tone of voice and body language. As I placed the defibrillator pads on his chest, prepping for what was going to happen, he looked me in the eye and said, "I wish I had spent more time with my children and grandchildren instead of being selfish with my time." Faced with imminent death, all he wanted was forgiveness. The second pattern I observed is the need for remembrance. Whether it was to be remembered in my thoughts or their loved ones, they needed to feel that they would be living on. There's a need for immortality within the hearts and thoughts of their loved ones, myself, my crew, or anyone around. Countless times, I have had a patient look me in the eyes and say, "Will you remember me?" The final pattern I observed always touched me the deepest, to the soul. The dying need to know that their life had meaning. They need to know that they did not waste their life on meaningless tasks. This came to me very, very early in my career. I'd responded to a call. There was a female in her late 50s, severely pinned within a vehicle. She had been T-boned at a high rate of speed. Critical condition. As the fire department worked to remove her from the car, I climbed in to begin to render care. As we talked, she had said to me, there was so much more I wanted to do with my life. She had felt she had not left her mark on this earth. As we talked further, it would turn out that she was a mother of 2 adopted children who were both on their way to medical school. Because of her, 2 children had a chance they never would have had otherwise and would go on to save lives in the medical field as medical doctors. It would end up taking 45 minutes to free her from the vehicle. However, she perished prior to freeing her. I believed what you saw in the movies. You're in those last moments that is strictly terror, fear. I've come to realize, regardless of the circumstance, it's generally met with peace and acceptance. That is the littlest things, the littlest moments, the littlest things you brought into the world that gives you peace in those final moments. Thank you. There was nothing that could be done for him.
Bald with a goatee.
And like so many other cases,
looks like a magician.
He looked me in the eye and asked that question.
He asked it?
Am I going to die? In that moment, I decided to do something different. I decided to tell him the truth. I decided to tell him that he was going to die and that there was nothing I could do for him.
I'm sorry, dude. There's nothing I can do.
You did,
His
dude.
reaction shocked me to this day.
He lived.
He laid back and had a look of acceptance on his face. He was not met with that terror or fear that I thought he would be. He simply laid there, and as I looked into his eyes, I saw inner peace and acceptance. From that moment...
So this guy, he goes on to say that, like, he's talking about, like, he's like, you know, I started telling people they're gonna die when it's like, you know, when a guy's fucking legs are, like, across the fucking room. It's like, am I gonna die? It's like, yes, of course, you know?
From that day forward, I started telling everybody that they were going to die.
Yeah,
Even if people who just had a paper cut or hard bruise or a fall from a motorcycle.
Yeah.
The peace in their eyes. Let me sleep well every night.
So that's the thing. Is like he's telling all these people that
pregnant ladies, you're gonna die.
But he
so die, lady.
It's only like a 5-minute TED talk, whatever. But he's talking about how there's these stages that they would kind of go through after he tells them like, oh yeah, dude, you're fucked.
And then, dude, you're gonna die, dude.
And how it's like you're having all this inner peace and acceptance, according to him. Almost always, he says, by the way, which just led my imagination to go for the other time.
For this one guy.
Holy shit!
All right, you're an aberration of the statistics.
Yeah.
Normally this goes over a lot better.
This is usually a big hit.
I've memorized this script so many times.
So he says the first stage is like looking for forgiveness. And he's like, a lot of times people tell me they had a regret or they had some shit that was like they felt bad about. Whatever.
I'm sorry, I'm dying.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe how many people told me they fucked kids.
Yeah, and he's saying how much inner peace and acceptance there is, but it's somebody being like, I wish I was forgiven. And then the next stage, which is like leaving a legacy, again, seconds away from death. So this is the next stage, is like feeling like you're going to be remembered.
All he wanted was forgiveness. The second pattern I observed is the need for remembrance. Whether it was to be remembered in my thoughts or their loved ones, they needed to feel that they would be
my thoughts
living on. There's a need
the
for
EMT.
Immortality
Hold on.
within the hearts and thoughts of their loved ones, myself, my crew, or anyone around.
My crew, the guys.
Countless times, I have had a patient look me in the eyes and say, "Will you remember me?"
Will you, the guy I just met, Remember me?
This sounds like a high school senior's oral report.
Now, if
This
you look
guy's
at the
not a
slide,
good TED Talk.
No,
the
This
definition
sucks.
of remembering is Merriam-Webster says.
You remember, so it's you're joining a club
Yeah.
again, and that club.
Now,
is
I
dead.
told the crew, guys, we gotta remember them.
And they did not.
Like I was like,
They
I was
almost
like,
immediately
this
forgot.
sounds like such a fucking lack of inner peace. It's like, first of all, I'm sorry I did all this shit. Will you remember me? I was like, none of this says inner peace and acceptance.
I'm sorry to start all the fires.
Sorry.
Will you remember? Oh, wait, no,
Please don't forget me. I know I just met you, but please remember me always.
I did so many bad things. Will you remember them?
Yeah.
Huh?
I don't know. It's just like, it's one of those things
It's a
where,
Carly Rae Jepsen.
And how he kind of makes it about him.
yeah.
Whether it was in my thoughts, my prayers, sketches, audio recordings, podcasts,
I mean,
or TED Talks.
when I was
they
first,
wanted to know if I would remember
when I
them.
first heard it, I was like, all right, this is good. This is a guy being like, all right, yeah, I was being selfish, trying not to like put the burden on myself of being afflicted by their horror, right, whatever. And then I just started telling them like, yeah, man, you know. But also like, you see enough of that shit.
Yeah.
You know, when the fucking subway car has dragged your fucking
Yeah.
ass a mile away, like, and somebody's going, you think I can pull through?
Yeah, but you know, dying people ask dumb questions.
They do, yeah. Well, they're not thinking right.
No.
There's not a lot of logic there.
They're on the way
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Usually the
Half in the
logic,
bag.
the logic is in the legs.
But the thing is, like, you don't want to take away hope, right? That's part of it too. Is you want to be like, you never know. There's a first time for everything. You know?
Here's what I would do.
Want me to take a picture?
No speak English. So,
I have a hard time with my hearing.
Mr. President. We were talking about this as like inside jokes.
Have we talked about this?
That was on Patreon.
No, I don't. No, that was after a Patreon.
Oh, really?
It was after.
It might have been in like the One of the Drunken Malalas, along with the piss on it. That still hasn't come out either.
Maybe we talked about.
No,
it
I
in the
think you're
cabin.
right. I think it was here.
It initially started. We were
Mr.
talking
Fish?
about boxing, and we were talking about
Mr. Fraser.
Tyson.
The Filipino
Yeah,
guy in Fraser's
right,
corner.
Yeah. So, and then we started talking about Ali Frazier, and then we're talking about how in the Thriller of Manila, the ref has to like guide Frazier back to his corner because he's so like punch drunk, right? And then I'm just pretending to be the guy. Mr. Frazier, no, your corner is Mr. Frazier. Your corner is over here. If you hurry us up because I'm going to smoke a cigarette at the pool. You should be here while you are recovering in the 1 minute, 10 minute rest in the corner. Mr. Frazier, that is Mr. Ali's corner. Mr. Frazier?
Yeah.
Please, if you please, your stool. Mr. Frazier.
Yes, Mr. Fraser, leave Mr. Ali alone.
Leave Mr. Ali alone. He is very mad.
Really dumb.
Really stupid.
Really, really
But
dumb.
Now you know what Mr. Frazier.
But very nice. I got kind of like a long, gross one. Do you want to?
I want to add just a little thing on the end of that story. So I believe this is it. After that fight, because Ali wins, he has to go and have dinner at like a banquet.
Yeah.
And so his face is all fucked up.
It's all
He's like
mangled.
standing in line to get food with like
At a buffet with a swollen Rocky face.
with like a Melda Marcos or something.
Yeah,
Who was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Just,
Yeah.
I know you just
Oh,
got your brains
shoes.
beaten.
Yeah.
Please.
Just shoes and skulls in her closet.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, what a nightmare.
Mr. Frazier, you look like your mouth is swollen shut. Would you like me to chew up your food and spit it down your throat so you can eat the lumpia?
Mr. Frazier, you won't be happy, but your corner is calling.
Your corner the lumpia is very good.
The towel is in.
The towel has been thrown, Mr. Frazier.
I got a pretty raw one.
Oh.
Oh, yeah?
Raw.
Yeah.
John.
It's a hard time.
Yeah?
It's a hard time.
Well, we just made fun of a guy talking to people who are about to die. So
Mr. Frazier
I remember.
Oh, really quick. I want to tell you that I watched Cicciolina's porno with John Holmes. The Rise of the Roman.
creep?
Yeah, real
You
creep.
psycho.
So
you watched the transmission fucking porn, the one where he's got.
he's got AIDS.
Yeah.
He looks like shit.
Yeah, that'll
he
do
kind
it.
of looks like John McAfee in this.
Oh.
I think they might be the same person.
Probably.
Oh. That would
but
make a lot
not
of
only
sense.
does John Holmes fuck Cicciolina,
Yeah.
then they have a three-way with Amber Lynn.
Wow.
Really?
Amber Lynn's in that movie too, and just like there's fucking a lot of spoiled seed getting shot around in that movie. So
Okay.
Amber Lynn's still kicking too.
Did you throw that review on Amazon?
Oh, good idea. That's a good.
It's on X Hamster.
I'll tell you something. There's a lot of spoiled
bullet on this one.
There's a lot of spoiled seed getting thrown
watch
around.
out.
We got to do a whole Patreon on just about the people who review porn on the internet.
God.
Yeah.
Just some of the
A lot of
most
guys
insane.
pretending to be women. Oh man, I'd love to have that dick in
A
my
lot of
vagina.
a lot of racism, a lot of homophobia,
Yeah.
a lot of
Hey
calling.
man, I wanted to be a pervert, not a bigot.
For some reason, now that Manuel Ferrara, what's his name?
Manuel Ferrara?
Yeah.
No. Nacho Vidal has HIV.
No. But Manuel Ferrara.
What about him?
Now that he's out of shape, all these people are calling him the Toad.
You ever fuck with the toad?
Which is fucked up because that man's still
Ferrara
fucking.
the
Yeah.
Toad. He shoots the toad. You ever fuck with the toad that
So
shoots the
you
bone?
guys have.
You know how they milk the toad?
Hey,
They get it
hey,
to
Joe.
squirt on the glass, Joe. And then they scrape up the toad load.
That's exactly right. That's very good.
Yeah, they let it dehydrate and crystallize.
And then they tip it up. But,
Yeah, it's free base in the toad. That's exactly right, Joe. I do not know they called him the Toad.
Yeah, there's not good people on. I'm not gonna say the name of my site because I don't want all you freaks going there. And closing it down.
All you freaks!
He doesn't want to get taken down for pirating.
Disparaging.
Because this is a maniac type of guy that watches the whole movie.
Oh, well, I need to know.
You need context.
I want to know.
gotta
I want to
manage-
know the intro music and then at the end who made it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like me watching porn. Who made this damn thing? I'm gonna track him down.
Hector.
Hector. We saw a music video directed by Hector. Hectah. Hector.
Music video.
Yeah.
Not a pornographic.
Isn't that very nice?
You know, it was Fat Joe telling him his Mike Tyson story, which is very good.
I'll let you get to it, Joe. I once was watching a porn trailer, just like a quick
Nice,
and
dude,
dirty
yeah.
one. And I was like, I had to Shazam the music because it was so dope. Fuck yeah!
All right,
Took my dick out of my hand and.
That's what I'm saying.
I was like,
that's what's
this
up
is
with
the
porn
stuff.
watching is when you stop and you go, hold the fucking phone.
Wait a minute.
Who made this?
Yeah.
I've never had a dick
This
in my
is now
cock before.
This is just I've never heard of it. What was it again?
Quid Wild.
I've never had
I've never had
a cock in my dick.
I've never had a cock in my dick.
I've never had a
before.
cock in my dick before. That was absolutely brilliant.
And they just kept rolling, and she kept taking it.
She laughs at it.
Yeah, she
like,
laughs.
I mean,
she laughs, looks back at the director,
and
then
just takes it.
She's like, you get it.
Total
Yeah,
pro.
You know what I'm talking about.
Great
I'm
job.
talking about. You've never had a
Shout out
cock.
to Quinn Wild. Great job.
Never had a
out
cock in your dick either, idiot.
My wife's got an ass in her cock.
I did not bring up any, but I did go through the various subjects that are done on Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh,
by Dennis Farina.
Oh, the Farina one.
And it is like you thought that like Unsolved Mysteries was way more of like a 911.
I thought it was way
crimier.
Yeah,
But it had a lot of alien shit in it back when Robert Stack was in. He's like, nobody knows to this day whether the fucking
crop circles or
yeah.
It's on Netflix or Amazon Prime now.
Yeah, they're all on, and they fucking did like even more seasons with Dennis Farina than they did with Robert Stack.
And are those on Netflix?
Those are all on Netflix.
Fucking ceviche. Nobody knows where it came from. Is it Chile?
Dude,
Is it South America?
He's talking about. He's like Tupac and Suge. We're at the corner of.
Fairfax and
he's seriously doing the fucking Tupac assassination.
Fantastic.
He was going. Now there's a third theory that it was an inside job.
Mike Tyson
and that
himself came down out of the ring.
He's chasing the bouncer around.
Hey,
You ever fuck with inside conspiracies, Chug? But yeah, it was I was like, fuck, man, this is crazy because he's doing like alien stuff, and he's like, to this, I mean, like he's got to have more of a broadcast voice so he doesn't get extra Farina
a little less Chicago than normal.
But he's still kind of saying, he's like, if anybody has information about the killing of Tupac Shakur,
please
Yeah.
Called Unsolved Mysteries.
As if this is the first time they're hearing about it.
Oh shit! You know what? I did see something last week.
Yeah, and I just forgot. It just slipped my mind.
Yeah. Oh,
thanks, Dennis.
Oh, did you?
Honey, did you say you saw Tupac?
Did you say that you, honey? Now, when you played the tape backwards, did it say "Suge Shot Me"?
I feel like I remember something about that.
Now, did you say that you saw Pac wearing the new Jordans in that music video, and that those came out after he was supposedly murdered?
There's a later Zapruder film where he also has Tupac getting shot.
Yeah, Ricochet.
Every Zapruder film is someone being murdered.
Yeah.
Turns out he was a snuff film guy.
Ooh.
Oh, yikes!
What snuff film?
I mean, it's been compared to the Zapruder
fantastic!
film.
Great
What you're
transition.
about to tell us?
Great transition, John.
It's been compared to the first time you see it. People talk about it like it's the first time they saw the Zapruder film.
Okay, go ahead.
And it came out of the kind of middle of the 80s or early 80s Britain. You got to remember back in the day that the
and Kevin Costner is in a movie with Kevin Costner.
The video recorder was a new thing.
That's correct.
And you had basically like VHS was kind of synonymous with porn at first, right? It was like
every new tech.
If you were talking about videos, you were talking about porn, basically. And this is a little movie. Have you ever heard of a movie called Animal Farm?
Yep.
Yeah, like off the book.
No.
Yeah. Did you hear about the societal and class the porn?
Yeah, Trotsky.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
There's a movie called Animal Farm.
I think you probably told me about it.
No, probably you knew about it before me, and you're just as perverted as I am. Yeah. You actually told me about it, I think.
Oh yeah. Do you know how much I love to be right and first? So
I'm gonna
don't dance with that devil, because I'll take credit.
John, who made it? Was it George Orwell?
It was made by the Color Climax Corporation.
The
Color Climax Corporation of Copenhagen. It's a lot of C's. You guys can follow along. But I'm gonna give you some of the rundown here. This is guys talking about now. This documentary is called The Dark Side of Porn, and they're talking about the film Animal Porn, which
Animal Farm
is actually a strung together series of bestiality.
Wait, what year?
Bestiality.
What year is this?
This is when the documentary came out about it.
No, when the original film.
That'd be like early 1980s.
Okay, so they probably got the idea from the board game.
Publicus. Yes. Right. Yeah. All these animals have a fucking
pushing the limits.
Yeah.
And Denmark had the loose obscenity laws.
Mm-hmm. Denmark had the loose obscenity laws to the point that they had child porn. Do you know that?
What?
Color Climax Corporation actually had.
They're the ones that made 17.
They had straight up child porn in the catalog back then. There was really no illegal porn.
Illegal channels?
Well, it's like it's that thing.
Illegal channels?
You know where it goes to that thing of like when you like my cousin was telling me, he was like I was in Holland and I was reading this book about just the general society, and it was like, yes, we found that like heroin abuse was like a serious problem here until we legalized it.
So we decided to do that with all of society.
And this is like anything that's wrong, legalize it, you know?
Oh yeah, and it works.
But this documentary about it is kind of cheap and lurid, and it tells the story of Animal Farm and its impact. And they talk to like the most depraved kind of jerk offs like us that are into porn and weirdo subculture stuff.
B. Arthur.
On the market was a porn.
25 years ago, the most shocking film ever made was smuggled into Britain. The film contained images of such extreme sexual depravity, it was never officially released, and no one is quite sure where the images came from. How the film was made and who made it has been shrouded in mystery, until now. For the first time, this program will reveal the people who made Animal Farm, the impact it had on Britain and the porn industry, and the dark secret behind the woman who became known as the Queen of Bestiality.
And it just went on to some sort of weird swaps network.
Everyone who's seen Animal Farm, it's a bit like when Kennedy died, they can tell you what they were doing and where they watched it. One and only time I watched the video was in 1985, halfway through my first year at university. There was 8 other guys that I lived with in a big house.
You'd be at a party, which is where I first saw it.
Sure.
And some evil scumbag.
Yeah, right. There's a guy sitting in a velvet room.
Music video that was playing, shoved it on, and then just sat there and waited to see everybody's reactions.
Nobody could have prepared us.
The most degrading thing anyone had ever seen up to that point.
It was like something from your darkest nightmare.
For me, it was entirely unbearable.
Animal Farm is grotesque. It's humiliating and debasing.
Here I am 20 years later talking about Animal Farm, and there's still, a number of things that I can see that are, heavily imprinted in my mind, mainly because they're just so shocking.
It was insane. You could not believe what you were watching.
There's only so much filth you can wallow in.
Oh,
They can't show you, but you see a bunch of dogs and horses. Hold on. But you see how heightening the tension the document.
On the floor time. These were hard lads, and some of them were walking out. One bloke went to the toilet, was sick.
He was sick.
I felt very queasy.
There are a few scenes in it that just stay with you and haunt you.
Animal Farm has no plot, but shows countless indecent acts, including penetrative, anal, and oral sex with every conceivable animal.
Every conceivable! Every conceivable!
Every animal upon the great ark of Noah.
That's where they go. This is where the documentary... The documentary becomes more of a farce than the point. Every conceivable
Chimeras,
animal.
sphinxes,
And now
griffins,
this is
anything in it.
Are you an animal that was not fucked in that movie?
Were you left out of the conceiving of the Animal Farm?
Have you been denied by conception of the human mind for sexual intercourse?
The mind is, you have a right to be running around in the human environment of the mind.
Animals are freedom nut.
So it was, it was this movie called Animal Farm, and it was like this underground phenomenon, and the UK hit back on all videos really hard. They had the video nasties, and that was just regular horror movies, but it's because it was coming in with shit like this that people were like, oh fuck yeah, and we hear they have child porn over in Copenhagen, and now there's this bestiality movie over here, and people were just like, holy shit, like people and you would do time, you would do straight up drug dealer time for tapes.
A full-scale war was taking place.
One tends to forget how seriously they took it. I mean, it was almost on a par with drugs. You got stopped with 30 or 40 tapes, you're going to go to jail.
The authorities were keen to win the war and began stamping down hard on pornographers.
It was ludicrous overkill. It was like something out of a CIA plot.
Once I was sort of on the phone and I said, well, I can't come because I've got to go and help my mother move house in Cambridge. The next thing I know, my mother's been raided in Cambridge, so there was obviously phone tapping.
There were prosecutions going on all over the place. I mean, the amount of time and energy. I mean, when I got raided, there was like 16 cops, cars crisscrossing, people following me, walkie-talkies. Ludicrous.
In Denmark, they dropped their obscenity laws, or they loosened them, right? So child porn is legal. Is the act of having sex with a child illegal?
I don't know.
Because maybe it's interesting that they'd still make the act illegal, but you're free to tape it. We're not going to stifle free speech. But we'll fine you if you fuck that kid.
Oh, you can't arrest a camera.
Yeah. It's a slippery slope, dude.
Yeah, it's really weird. There's a ton of hype around this movie, but
what part of this movie did you nut at?
I never saw the movie.
Really?
I saw this documentary. They never show you any of the stuff. They can't legally.
Right. It looks like this may be the movie where somebody fucks a chicken and cuts its head off.
I don't think so. No. And I think you're gonna find out why as this goes on, because the documentary goes into finding out who made the movies, and it's actually kind of down to like a single small set of people.
I bet.
Or person. And
John Candy.
For the record, Norway, I just looked it up. Norway's age of consent is 16.
What about Denmark?
Oh, sorry.
Denmark? Holy God. Them over there, them
the age of
savages.
consent in like California is 16 too.
Right. Yes, under 15 in Denmark.
under 15. Just generally under 15.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
As long as you're not over 15,
Yeah.
Right.
you can get fucked.
Yeah. If you're over 15, you had your shot, kid.
Yeah, no, you're going to jail.
And the rest of those perverts.
Are you sick? Oh God. Oh, I don't want to.
Tell us more. John.
I don't want
more,
to.
please, Daddy, please.
All right, here
Please play
here we
Animal
go.
Farm again.
Please tell us more about the farm of animals.
So there's a little bit of an origin story here. I'm going to give you a clip of.
In only a few weeks, I've been in I don't know how many magazines and have made 11 or 12 little movies. Once we made 4 films in 4 hours.
But the reasons behind this young woman's extraordinary actions remained a mystery. It seemed a genuine love of animals made Bodil Joensen go where no other had gone before.
She's the girl in all the movies.
Oh.
Bodil Joensen.
Bodil Joensen.
Aged 15 and alienated from her family, she had found herself homeless in Oddshred, deep in the Danish countryside. A local pig farmer, Gunnar Nielsen, took pity on her and gave her a room.
Homeless, taken in by a pig farmer.
My first impression of Bodil was that she had a different outlook to most teenagers.
You bet.
I don't know what her childhood was like. She was passionate about animals and not much else, and she really enjoyed helping me inseminate the sows.
She really enjoyed helping me inseminate the sows.
I love to see the pig cover a female pig. Sometimes I worked an extra hour in order to take the pig to its female. I found that wonderful to do.
They hired some poor actress to do that.
To do the voice, yeah.
Suddenly Bodil asked if she could come out. Suddenly Bodil asked if she could come out to the neighboring farms with me and my boars. I refused. I told her that the locals were very conservative, and because she was young, people would talk if they saw us together. She was offended and angry.
Frustrated, Bodil left to set up her own breeding farm, Insemination Central.
Wait, that's the name of my band.
Yeah, that's the name of my bedroom.
Insemination Central. So she's in this conservative Danish countryside.
You won't
She
let me.
loves pigs fucking. And she's like, all I want to do is inseminate pigs. And
he won't let her.
And he won't let her, so she goes and she starts, having her own pigs fuck.
Yeah.
It's the sound. It's the beautiful sound of pigs fucking.
And she learned from the master.
But
she put in her 10,000 hours.
She's going from kind of like, let's say farm to farm, talking to farmers, trying to, but she's coming like after dark, and the farmers' wives are like, who the fuck is this like hot 17-year-old showing up talking about fucking pigs? And they were just kind of like, yeah, you
And
can't.
why does she have a fucking video recorder?
Oh no, she doesn't have a video recorder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
But she did take pictures. She said she loved taking images of them.
Right, yeah, but she's just showing up trying to do actual, farm work, and the wives are like, I don't want that girl with the pigs after dark showing up at the farm. She's too hot, and she's just like, all the guys wanted to fuck me, and that's why Insemination Central failed economically, right?
Well, the farmers' wives wouldn't let her, start her own business.
Well, see what happens. So they won't let anyone fuck her.
And that's how she's got to go on the fucking promenade of welfare or whatever.
Yeah, the promenade of welfare includes donkeys and sheep and pigs.
Yeah, she's having a hard time there, and really all she wants to do is do this animal stuff.
She wants to make animals happy.
Yeah, and that's her life's work. That's what she's trying to do. Yeah. But everyone wants to fuck her so bad, and she's like, I don't fucking want to do that at all.
Good.
But she fails there economically, so she needs to go into something else.
If you ask her a question, she says, I do this, I do that, and if you don't like it, fuck you,
As we were doing the film.
So now she goes to this guy Ole Egg. And Ole Egg is a guy that works for the Color Climax Corporation, and she's like, I have this idea where I have sex with animals, and
so she goes
to a pornographer in
Straight
Copenhagen, and is like, I got this thing, and she's like, what if we did this? And he goes, I remember doing like, all right, well, let's do a shoot first, and then she's like, she took off her pants, and there was hay in her pants. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is kind of too real.
She walked the walk.
Yeah, this is not bullshit. And so he went out to her
pig shit.
He went out to her place.
Oh, wait a minute.
And he shot these films, and then there was like, immediate interest from people like around the world being like, who the fuck is this person now? And keep in mind, this is the 70s. It gets to
there's no AIDS or nothing.
Well, no, but it gets to England in the 80s because of the video recorder.
Right.
Those were Color Climax Corporation was like, oh, now you have video? I've got fucking decades of porn on film that I'm now going to transfer to videotape and sell and remake money over again and again and again. And that's what Animal Farm was. It was old at that point.
And it found new life on VHS.
Yeah, so Bodo Johansen is now, like, there's like an artist kind of guy, an American-Japanese guy, and he comes over and he's like, I'm going to make a documentary with Ole Egg or whatever, the fucking, the Danish fucking pornographer. And both of these guys seem like they're all in the documentary. They're all talking about it. We really should actually do a riff tracks over this documentary because it is...
Oh, I thought you were going to say over Animal Farm.
No, over the documentary because it is so minute-to-minute insane.
There's probably a way to line it up with, like, Planet Earth.
But so it is, like, it's like, this stuff is coming out and it's kind of subversive. Like, it's the 70s still, and, like, porn is, like, this thing where it's, like, it's not exploitative yet. It might be, like, a feminist weapon and shit. So, like, anything on the edges is just, like, anti-authoritarian and subversive and stuff. So you have this artist coming out to make a documentary and be like, no, this is a fucking person fucking these animals. And I'm going to show her, like, in her true light. It's not, Ole Egg is here, too, doing the porn, but, like, we're all going to be here making this thing. So what you're going to hear is Shinjuki Tajiri and Ole Egg both talking. The American-sounding guy is Tajiri. Both talking about making this kind of, like, documentary about Bodil Johansen living on her little farm-type thing and having sex with animals.
Okay, so this is a separate documentary from the one that we're watching?
Yes. He kind of does, like, a more artistically done...
So the documentary that...
You know how the John Holmes documentary is still a porn?
Right.
That's what this guy was doing.
Oh, okay.
With Bodil Johansen.
And that is separate from Animal Farm.
Animal Farm is actually 4 separate movies put together for the English public of just bestiality porn.
They're all Bodo?
And there's never a title that says Animal Farm. It just came to be known as Animal Farm.
Right.
Because, British pride.
Right.
Well, George Orwell, sign off on this.
Call it Big Brother, but that was a whole other set of motion pictures.
4 legs good, 2 legs bad, all that. You understand?
It's all good.
So I just want to clarify for myself and for Matt and for the listeners, this Tajiri guy and Ole Egg, they made a documentary.
Yes.
That is not this documentary, and that is not Animal Farm, the 4-part fuck video.
No, it was kind of like the longer form, like, because back then you did, like, small reels. Like, a film was like a 20-minute thing you showed at a bachelor party.
Yeah.
But now they did, like, a longer thing for, like, kind of like a more serious film.
Yes.
As it were. And
it's a documentary about Bodil Johansen.
And her way of life living on a little farm fucking her animals, seriously.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that we all have to watch now. So
we should not watch most of them.
I'll watch all of them front to back.
Good
and
for
I'll
you.
find out, I'll Shazam the fucking music too. So there's Animal...
Glad you brought that up, Aaron.
Good, me too.
Don't pat yourself on the back before you know why.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Animal Farm.
Yeah.
This documentary.
The Dark Side of Porn. This is the final entry in the series. It was like a little, it was like, she was doing a scene called ATM. Arse to mouth. And it was like always like, but this is the only one that they could actually show where it's like, okay, this is actually a category yikes hurricane. You know what I mean?
And what's the name of the documentary?
The Dark Side of Porn, Animal Farm is the final episode in the series.
And if Tajiri's, what's the name?
Tajiri's is, well, I'm going to leave that for the clip to tell you.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And the other ones are just like called like, multiple things like meant to sell smut. But like all the guys that participate in this documentary, the weirdos that talk about watching it, they all kind of talk about in the documentary that it's like, Animal Farm is like more of a thing like that you just put on to shock people. Like all these guys were like, there's nobody fucking jerking off to this.
Right. Not in a group.
Right, but
the guy ran to the bathroom to puke.
Yeah, but like the
He
weird
sounded like he was having a real bad
Yeah,
time.
he puked out of his dick.
So Bodil was basically she was raised in like a really sexually repressed house by her mother, and she anytime there was like a dude around, her mother would just beat the shit out of her. And like worse and worse and worse until she becomes homeless when she's 15, and then this pork farmer takes her in, right? Yeah. But the last really bad beating she got was like she told her mom about like some creepy dude was trying to corner her at the train station, and her mother just goes off on her for that, being like, "You're the fucking you're the problem here," and just beats the living shit out of her. And then Bodil says back to her mother, "I'm going to fuck boars." She's like, it was the most naughty thing I could think of to say at the time. And my mother looked at me as if I was allied with the devil. So we're going to get a little bit more here of Bodil's kind of worldview from Tajiri and Oli Egg, the two filmmakers that made her kind of big breakout documentary.
I'd heard about this woman, and I heard that she was being used in some of the porno scenes. A lot of people that sort of got onto her doing stills and then films. And I wanted to show her as a human being in 3 dimensions, not as a kind of a sex curiosity.
Shinkichi contacted Ole Egg, the man who discovered Bodil, to help produce the film.
I called her, made arrangements to go there. We were there 3 days, living at her farm.
Tajiri and Ole spent 4 days at Bodil's farm, capturing her looking after and having sex with her animals.
Looking after
Documentary, A Summer Day.
A Summer Day. That's the documentary.
Whilst shooting, the sound equipment packed up, and they had to come up with a radical solution by using Beethoven's aptly named Pastoral Symphony.
Hold on.
We found the perfect answer in Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, which exactly portrays the beauty of nature.
Because it's nature. When you're fucking...
News of Shinkichi's film traveled throughout the Danish boho scene, and he was invited to enter his film in 1970's biggest Blue Movie Awards. The International Wet Dream Festival.
The International Wet Dream Festival.
X-rated alternative to Cannes, appealing to pornographers and freethinkers from around the world, and even attracting the odd feminist judge.
Who was that?
That was a
When
butthole.
you went into a screening, you realised that most of the people there were just there as ordinary consumers of porn. The Macintosh Brigade was there, and then there were the revolutionaries, the flower.
So it goes to this festival in Copenhagen, and there's people there that do view porn as a revolutionary thing, like this feminist, woman is talking about, and then they talk about fucking a midsummer's day or a summer's day comes on, and they're like you could have heard a pin drop. Like he's like the guy next to me, next to Tajiri, is like gripping his armrests, and he's like, and it wins the Grand Prix at the Wet Dream Festival.
Now, does it contain clips from Animal Farm, or are these separate?
Well, Aaron,
is it like how they made Desperado, and there's also what was the one before Desperado that Robert Rodriguez did it. El Mariachi, and then Desperado was like the better version of it.
Yeah, it's I think made from just several moments just around her regular life of still fucking animals.
The daily routine.
Yeah, it's kind of more of
it's just a regular day, summer.
It's a summer day. It's a summer day. Now it's not the winter because there's different animals around then.
Yeah.
The bushier
right.
ones.
Yes, of course, yes.
But
the hibernation.
The good ones go into hibernation.
Yes.
Right. So
no flies in the winter.
Right.
There's this little promise that she makes that I think I already spoiled for you, but I wanna tell you about it because this also gets into more of her mindset on why she became a person so fascinated intimately with animals. Let's just take it away.
I have never been beaten up by my mother so much.
This is after
than
the
when I came home from that.
Confused, angry, and resentful, Bodil made a promise which would haunt her for the rest of her days.
I said to Mama that when I grew up, I'd fuck boars. I couldn't think of anything more naughty. She was so shocked that she thought I was allied to the devil.
As Bodil became older, her oath to her mother slowly began to manifest itself.
Now let's hear it.
Isolated from normal human affection, Bodil sought solace from the animals she loved.
The dog would get up, come up in the morning, jump on the bed and wake her up, and he would sniff around like some animals will do. And at a certain age, I think she was probably 12, she let it happen. He began to sniff her and so forth, and she probably had some kind of an orgasm.
Some kind of.
Hold on.
And that became her first love. As long as I knew her, she had a little locket with a portrait, with a photograph of the dog there.
No.
That is
very
raw, John.
Did I just lock it with the dog in it?
We have to start selling those.
You know that they're trying to make this so sad.
Oh, they got the sepia tone dog.
Yeah.
In the locket, I'm like.
Everywhere she would go, she would carry the locket with a picture of the dog.
As long as I knew her, it was The Beauty of Nature from Ole Egg with Beethoven's Sixth. It's
only one logical choice.
It was fitting.
It was either this or
It
like
ended up being the most.
Devo.
Couldn't get the rights to Devo.
It's going to be Kraftwerk backwards.
But it was
going to be Warcraft. Jensen, she has a terrible end. She ends up. She doesn't want to have. She drinks more and more. She doesn't really take care of her animals very well. She doesn't want to have sex with humans. She ends up doing that. Who would want? Get the fuck out of here! Disgusting pigs, right? You know.
Ironically,
yeah. Yeah, and so I'm not gonna bum everybody out with that. Watch the documentary if you want to get bummed out. But one of the other things too is that after these movies started spreading around, she started getting a steady stream. She was able, from the initial like cash milking, as it were, of from these movies to afford her own farm, and then she actually had a daughter with a guy.
Oh,
a human? Yeah, he was just kind of a dumb guy, and like the best thing she ever said about him was, "We both don't like being alone, so it's cool that we're together." And then Tajiri is like, "Yeah, he seemed like kind of simple and slow and stuff," and then they have a daughter, which is like God knows what's going on there, like this poor girl. But she just like drinks herself to death. Basically, it's a super bummer. But there's the thing about the Japanese tourists started streaming into Copenhagen,
Christ.
and they would come out to the farm just to make like their own fucking like animal movies.
To make their own?
To like kind of do what would you call it? Like a made to order. Custom movies, including themselves and whatever. And I'm like, but the thing is that the whole time she is always like,
watch me drive through Dealey Plaza and get shot.
The first thing the farmers see about this girl when she's like 15, 16 is they're like, oh yeah, she can handle these crazy boars that are kind of scary for like a young person, and all of the sex she's having with the animals are like, it's like really like, apparently according to the secondhand accounts, and again, I'm not gonna watch, but they make it sound like it's like all fucking like
hunky-dory?
Kind of hunky-dory.
How did she not get injured, like, at any of this? Like,
they
show those clips of the horses fucking, and then they start kicking and all. It's like...
Yeah, it looks pretty wild, right? And there's one that's like... so all these British guys being like, I don't understand, like, why would you fillet a horse? And it's like, to get it off.
It's not going to come on its own. It doesn't hand.
That's not the right question.
He's like, it's a girl there. She's putting like a handful of eels in a vagina, right? And then like they take the eel out and they put it on a frying pan and they eat it. It's kind of messed up movie, isn't it? So we really need to watch it. Like the documentary about it.
Dark Side of Porn documentary.
Dark Side of Porn documentary. It's just a TV show. It's a BBC TV show. But there's also the thing that I think is so lurid about it is this BBC thing of being like,
it's so
can you imagine how horrible? Yeah. But also here it is.
Yeah, you don't have to imagine with 7-Up.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
want a sizzling hot
Depravity is right underneath your noses. Your children might have fucked a fucking
It could be
fish or
happening
something.
right under your nose in your own farmhouse.
Next top baker.
Yeah.
Vagina eels.
Have you ever seen your husband eating an eel? Whose vagina did you put it in? But yeah, I mean, I know it's really over the top, but like I saw it and I was like, oh,
Jesus Christ.
The dog in the locket lost my mind laughing. It's like looking after her animals and having sex with them. I was like,
It's worded so beautifully.
so every conceivable animal. I'm like,
think of one. It's
do you
there.
know what conception means?
Yeah. Do you know what conceivable?
Or cloaca.
Every
Yeah.
Conceivable.
seahorses, sloths, marmosets, you name it. She fucked
Orangutans.
Orangutan.
Breakfast cereals.
Sparrows, minnows.
It's so fucking over the top, but so good.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it's like, you know, the most famous like bestiality porn has like this weird sort of logical story to it.
Yeah.
It's not like
It is
Mr.
nothing
Hands.
Good, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not good at all. But it is like, it's just like, fuck, crazy. Like,
Yeah, having any sort of backstory kind of like grounds it. You know, Mr. Hands, there's very little you know about Mr. Hands. I mean, they did make the documentary Zoo, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
But this is like a whole tragedy, and then the filmmakers come in and then Wayne's World it.
yeah, I mean, they throw it in with all these like ups and downs, and they make it like this really tragic story by the end. But it's also like, you guys are trying to like weave like an up and down narrative where it's like these guys being like, and it was just perfect how like Beethoven's symphony perfectly
And
captures
the flies are buzzing
the
around.
nature. Like, yeah, she brought nature into the house.
You found a homeless girl who fucked animals, and you sold movies of her doing
yeah,
it.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah. It's so insane.
The flies following her part, like everything other than the fucking is like Disney princess, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh no,
And then
fucking.
this is the part where Snow White fucks the boars.
The 7 boars.
The birds are landing on her shoulders, and the
Right.
flies are hovering around her privates. She's truly like
But they were really they're totally being like, to her it was fine. We were like, holy shit, it reeks in here.
Yeah, it smells like
And-
shit.
Yeah, and she's like, what are you talking about? You guys smell like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you smell like Irish Spring.
Yeah, what is that? What is that? Jacquard Noir?
What are you pissing a hole?
But yeah,
that was something else, John.
Quite a closer.
Yeah,
Shout out to Bodil Johansson.
Yeah.
Taking one for the team.
Sorry, Jesus Christ.
I know, quite a nightmare, but it's really just about. I mean, the sensationalism of the documentary is kind of similar to the first media episode we did, where Brass Eye is
almost Brass Eye.
Yeah, it's making fun of that exact thing, even where they like throw in like turbo techno music to like jar you and scare you.
And what happened next would blow your mind.
Yeah, and like I read the Wikipedia, and they're like,
It's
this interaction at the train station that her mother beat her so bad about was like, oh yeah, she might have like been approached by a man and she told her mother about it, or she might have been like almost cornered by a man. The documentary goes, she was brutally raped. It's just like they just take kind of liberty with facts for sensationalism's sake. You know? So you're kind of like, man, fuck you too. Like,
and the man tied her to the train tracks as he twisted his handlebar mustache.
Right, yeah. And it's like is this the third time this person's being exploited?
Like, well, like why do you
know?
In the worst way.
Oh, right.
It's a documentary about bestiality, and you gotta like kick it up. Yeah, kick it up a notch.
Kick it up a notch. Who knows?
Jeez, come on.
We're just gonna go ahead right and say she was brutally raped.
Yeah.
Right, here's the deal.
Do you guys want to say she drank the piss or not?
She was brutally drinking the piss.
brutally.
Yeah, I'm glad we ended on such a wacky number.
Yeah, that got out
as
there.
a free non-Patreon episode.
I mean, yeah.
That it is.
I mean, if you want to hear about the whole story about a Canadian man who learns the taste of grass.
Yeah.
Check the
yeah.
Patreon.
That's right. That's right.
That
Nobody
is right.
rides for free.
Yeah. Saddle up.
Yeehaw. Well, Starburns, you're welcome.
Yeah. Yes, you are.
Here's our foray into media.
Yeah.
First time on the Starburns network.
Yeah.
And we talked about cooking fish in a dishwasher.
Right.
Yes.
And
Alex Trebek.
Some very,
Dennis Farina.
basic stuff.
Yeah, and then somebody brought up something about, I don't know, it was like a horrible...
Some sort of
bestiality?
crime against God and nature.
But nature, too?
Well, the nature's so beautiful.
Yeah, the nature is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's the human nature that's a problem.
Yes, that's the big...
You know what the problem is when the dudes show up?
It always is.
There was a man.
Yeah,
there was a man.
Suddenly there was a man.
Yeah.
Never mind. Can you imagine the Japanese guys showing up in Copenhagen and them being like, don't worry, we know what bus you're catching. Yeah, they're going out to the conservative countryside that didn't like this sexually active girl.
Line them up.
Yeah. Yeah, oh God, she might have had sex with farmers, God forbid. Instead, what did you get?
Yeah, see what happens when you don't let people do what they want to do?
See what happens?
So that's why we legalize heroin?
That's right.
Because like we found out like
we've learned a lesson.
People that when you stifle creativity, it just comes out like the other way in a more perverse fashion. So like we just let people fuck children and put it on camera.
You can't come to my farm at night, otherwise people will be talking. Later on, we'll be talking about how there's international tourists to your farm to watch you have sex with your livestock.
And then now you're the laughingstock of the world stage.
And she never leaves. She's camped out in the countryside the whole time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's just like, she's a country girl.
Yeah, it's just one of those,
She's
just no city life.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to breed your pigs, idiots.
Yeehaw, boy.
Yeah.
Wow, that is raw.
Raw, quite raw.
Right.
Yes.
It's going to be great. We got the Starburns bump and everybody tunes in.
It's not as if it's the Marquis de Sade, the debut episode, which is for the faint of heart. Yes, we eased in with the Marquis de Sade.
The sadomasochism and bondage and discipline. We eased in.
I think we started with a quaint obliteration of the urethra. If I'm not mistaken.
I think there was turds being shot square into someone's mouth.
Very droll, Aaron.
That was the conservative countryside.
Yes. Oh my God! I mean, we didn't bring the damn donkeys into it, did we?
We had self-respect. Back when we started on Starburns, there weren't just fucking every conceivable animal. We just boiled it down to human beings. Didn't matter if they were alive, dead, boy, girl, human, or adult.
Not at all. All right, I'm going to say goodnight, everybody. My name's John Fahey.
My name is, I guess,
Matt Brousseau.
Good night, everybody. We love you.
Jesus.
Sex with every conceivable animal.